Welcome to Shaping eCommerce with Iron Plane. This is where we talk about e-commerce development, solutions, digital marketing, and all things e-commerce. Be sure to check out the description below each video to find additional resource links and show notes. We upload new videos each day. Please like and subscribe to our channel.
Welcome back to another episode of Shaping eCommerce with Iron Plane. I'm Tim Bucciarelli, Director of Engagement with Iron Plane, and today we're talking all about subscriptions, and specifically we're talking about the platform called Subscribe Pro with Rob Holthause. Thank you for joining us today, Rob.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Tim.
If you could just give everyone a quick bit of info about your background and your work with Subscribe Pro, that would be great.
I'd be happy to. So, as you can tell by my literal background, most of my background has been with music as an educator and a performer. But I've been in sales for over a decade now. And I've been with Subscribe Pro for the last 5 years, where I've headed up sales and all new revenue. And I like to kind of describe Subscribe Pro succinctly as a e-commerce subscription solution. But, digging a little deeper, we power all different types of, subscription, club box, subscribe and save, recurring order, donation, can be used in a variety of different ways. And we work with a bunch of different customers all around the world.
And that was actually that you hit on what was going to be my first question, which is really just clarifying for everyone, what are we talking about when we talk about subscriptions? Because a lot of folks will think immediately like, oh, media streaming or Netflix, or you get a subscription and you can get it over your computer, you can get it like a DVD in the mail, not anymore, but you get the idea. What are kind of the major subscription buckets, would you say, that people tend to work within?
Yeah, I think if I was going to define subscription at its highest level, I mean, it's as a customer, it's anything that you're going to be charged for on a regular basis. That's like the 30,000 foot approach to like what a subscription is. As you zoom in a little bit, as you just said, there are kind of multiple different types of subscriptions. I think the one that people probably think about the most commonly is what we refer to as like a replenishment subscription. So that's going to be things like vitamins or skincare, or those are the most common for us, but also things like pet food, coffee and tea, things that you would get on the regular delivered to your house. Hey, I don't ever want to run out of my favorite kind of coffee. Please send me, 2 bags of this every month or what have you. There's also the model that a lot of folks are familiar with. And I feel like I first kind of remember this getting really popular in the popular psyche was Birchbox in like 2011, 2012. Everybody was kind of going crazy for that of like, hey, we'll send you this, every month you get a different box with different goodies inside of it, right? That's more of what we would consider like a curated box. You sign up for the experience and the surprise and delight factor of like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to get this month. Like, I'm excited to open it. People are doing that with like wine clubs, beer of the month,
cheese of the month.
Yeah. I've seen some of those as well. And then the kind of third category that we use internally within Subscribe Pro would be like an access subscription. So something that you're paying to get on a regular basis, an online textbook, a membership in a club. Technically, if you think about it, like Amazon Prime is an access subscription. Sure. So is like if you're a member of Spotify, if you're paying for Spotify Premium, you're getting access to an ad-free experience on their platform.
And so that could be extrapolated to any SaaS platform, essentially, right?
Exactly.
With a recurring revenue stream.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And I think it's important, while we're kind of chatting about that, nowadays, I feel like every consumer, I don't think that I've ever met somebody who isn't familiar with like, we live in a subscription world now, right? Like everybody is just like, everybody has Netflix, everybody has, at least the free version of Spotify. Most people are like subscribing to their pet food or their, vitamins that they take. So I think the important thing for merchants to consider, for subscription platforms to consider, is how you present that to customers, making sure that it's clear and that they're familiar with, your terms of service, that kind of thing. Is going to be very important. Yeah.
And we'll dig into the details of the kind of best use cases. But if you could just give a quick snapshot of the history of Subscribe Pro, like how did it get its start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're going back to 9 years ago. Our founder, a guy by the name of Garth Brantley, who's still our CEO and is still my boss, he had a development agency, and realized that there was kind of a niche there that could be filled. At the time, most of his work was on Magento, and that historically really has been our bread and butter platform. We work on other platforms now, but Magento is still probably number one for us. And he was like, I think that I can build a solution on Magento that kind of addresses some things that other solutions don't. And he set out to do that. The company was founded in late 2013, really started to take on clients in 2014. And like I said, I came on board 5 years ago in 2017 to continue the company's growth. But yeah, it came out of a development agency being like, hey, I think that there's an opportunity here. And then it was good enough that it was just like, why don't we just do this instead of being a dev agency? Because we feel like this solution really has legs.
So just to dig into the technology a little bit, do you guys consider yourself as a Magento extension or a Magento module, or are you like a SaaS function that can be tied to the Magento platform?
That's a very good question. And the answer is yes and yes. So we're a little bit different than sort of an off-the-shelf extension that you might get in the Magento marketplace. In that we are a SaaS solution that uses a Magento extension to work. So we're an API-driven solution. We have our own platform to manage subscribers. That's where the subscription engine sits that generates, Jane Smith's order on, every 30 days on the 12th of the month or whatever day she picked. But we connect to Magento via API. And so the sign up, happens within our Magento extension. There's a page for customers to manage their subscription, and we're relying on the Magento cart to place recurring orders. But we also have our own platform that houses subscriber data. So yes and yes, it's kind of a two-parter. Yeah.
Okay. And so we talk about the Magento platform. What other platforms are you working with today?
Yeah. So like I said, a majority of our clients, better than half of our clients at this point, are still on Magento. But we also work on Salesforce Commerce Cloud and technically WooCommerce and Zoe, but we don't have a ton of clients there. Salesforce Commerce Cloud is kind of the big one after Magento, Adobe Commerce.
Okay. And, we talked about already a whole bunch of different varieties of subscriptions. So it seems like pretty much any merchant could in some way, shape, or form benefit from a subscription platform. Now, everyone has different budget constraints as well. Yeah. So when we talk about Subscribe Pro, where do you find yourselves? And let's just focus maybe in this conversation on Magento, because that's really what IronPlane works within anyway. Where does Subscribe Pro focus its energy in terms of finding new users of your platform? And I mean this in sense of like, maybe not necessarily what type of subscriptions they're selling, because it sounds like you could do a bunch of different types, but like to make it worth their while, they're having to invest in a subscription platform. Like, is there a revenue number that they should typically have, or a number of subscription transactions? Like, how do you gauge that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that we've Subscribe Pro has kind of had this trajectory that has really accelerated over the past few years, where when I came on board, an overwhelming majority of our clients were SMBs. We still have a bunch of them, which is cool. Like people that have been with us for 5, 6, 7, 8 years even. And some of them have really grown with us, which is very interesting. But we've really trended up market, especially in the past 2 to 3 years. A majority of our clients now are kind of more enterprise than sort of the small and mid-sized clients that we had seen earlier.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. We handle that really by having flexible pricing. I don't want to put this out of the realm of anybody that wants to work with Subscribe Pro. So we've worked really hard to kind of like, provide the most features and support and enterprise level customization for the largest clients that we work with. I mean, some of which are massive. We're talking like Fortune 500 international kind of companies, while at the same time not forgetting that Joe's Coffee, which is like some random small shop, could also benefit from our solution as well. We don't want to put them out, have them be at the expense of us focusing our energy on the larger merchants. So it really is kind of across the board, because there's so many different kinds of merchants that could benefit from subscriptions, and because we're kind of one of the legacy solutions on Magento, like we're still around in the ecosystem even after the change to Adobe Commerce. We still work with a ton of SIs like Iron Plane, so and I still have conversations with the reps at Adobe. So for us, I'm just as excited to chat with an SMB as I am to chat with a massive client that already has a subscriber base and of 100,000 monthly.
Yeah, and like what I was getting at, as when you talk about that shift from SMB to kind of the enterprise level businesses, that's very in keeping with what has been happening with Magento users across the board, where the SMBs have opted to shift to platforms that have come up over the past 5-10 years and are totally usable by them for their needs. So that's like Shopify or BigCommerce. And now what's left on Magento are the companies that really demand that type of flexibility and customization. So that's very consistent with what we've seen as well with our clients.
Yeah, so, the kind of companies that, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if you had one kind of company that you work with that's particularly interesting to you, or that you can highlight for us just to give us a sense of that engagement that you work with?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on Magento, the two or three that spring like readily to mind for me, just because we've had sort of the longest ongoing partnership with them, and we've worked the most on best practices and that kind of thing. The three that pop readily to mind would be BrainMD, Charlotte's Web, and RxBar. All three have been with us for a long, long time. All three were with us on Magento 1 and then made the shift to Magento 2. And we helped them with that. We've worked with them on best practices. We've worked with them on tracking their churn and minimizing customer turnover, that kind of thing. And all three of them have really grown their subscription solutions a lot as a result of a partnership with SubscribePro. They're all in kind of a similar vein. If you may have noticed, BrainMD is a supplement brand. Charlotte's Web is a CBD supplement brand. RxBar is, protein
bars. Yeah,
exactly. But in a similar vein, they're owned by Kellogg now, which is great. Their marketing looks amazing. They have the resources to really grow. Some of the more interesting use cases for me, kind of outside of those clients that we've been with for a long time, are we work with a ton of wineries now, powering like a curated, because obviously a wine club is curated, a quarterly box with, hey, a case of 6 wines every quarter delivered to your door. And then the winemaker chooses the bottles that go into it. Or the other one that's really interesting to me, we've been working with, and we've done this for a while, but we've worked with some charities and are now working with some universities that use SubscribePro's tool simply for recurring donations. So it's not even technically an access subscription, because you're not accessing anything. It's just like, hey, would you like to make a donation to the political science fund or the music fund, or feeding the needy? That those types of recurring donations. I think there's an interesting use case for SubscribePro's tool, because there is, in those cases, no physical product that's being delivered. It's just a donor, or a large group of donors that are signing up for, regularly donations to a charity that they believe in, which is cool.
Yeah, that's great. One thing I wanted to touch on, you mentioned the word churn.
Yes.
Could we just kind of first just define that? I think most folks will know what it is, but define it in the context of subscriptions, and talk a little bit about why that's such an important thing to minimize.
Yeah, absolutely. So churn is basically any number of customers that you lose. You could look at it as the percentage of customers that you lose versus new ones that you've signed up for subscriptions in a month. There's kind of a variety of ways to describing that. Perhaps the most insidious kind of churn that we're always trying to minimize is what we call involuntary churn.
Yeah.
That isn't, Joe, Smith being like, hey, I don't want to get this coffee anymore. That's literally just, oh yeah, my card updated, but I forgot to, I'll do it later. And then they just never come back. And then that subscription just kind of fails and lives in subscription purgatory forever. There's ways around that. There's a number of tools that we have that minimize that involuntary churn. And we can also kind of work with our clients to try to minimize voluntary churn as well. We have some clients that do kind of a save the sale workflow of like trying to capture a cancellation reason or offering a coupon code, marketing tactics that keep customers engaged or excited for their next order. You're never going to eliminate it completely. Just like you're never going to eliminate failed orders. There's every month or, batch or whatever, there's always going to be some percentage of people whose cards fail, or some other issue. But for the most part, you want to try to minimize that. You want your customer service team to kind of stay on top of that as much as possible, because like it's reliable, actionable revenue. We know that we have X number of subscribers. We know that our average subscription, order value is X dollars. And that's reliable revenue month over month that you really want your e-com team to do as much as possible to protect. So, working to kind of maximize that experience for subscribers, which we talk about all the time. Your subscribers are your best customers. Their lifetime value can be 10, 15, 20 times that of a non-subscriber. They should have the best UX on your site. I mean, you should have good UX to begin with. It's 2022, but they should have by far the best UX, because they're the people that are like, here's my payment information, just send me something,
It feels to me like this world of subscription kind of service or platform is really big these days. It seems like there are a lot of different companies, a lot of different platforms offering a similar type of service. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the marketplace as you see it and where Subscribe Pro fits and maybe, some of the competition that's out there?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of folks doing this. I feel like kind of as you brought up, that a lot of the SMBs that this would be most popular with have kind of gone to the Shopifys and the BigCommerces of the world. And so there's there's a massive uptick in the number of kind of subscription solutions on those platforms. That's not an area that Subscribe Pro is involved in yet. Like I said, our major focus for platform is Adobe Commerce, Magento, and Salesforce Commerce Cloud. Really, for us, it's kind of more comparing a SaaS solution to kind of an off-the-shelf extension, because that's a lot of times what merchants that I'm speaking with are looking at is like, I can go to the marketplace and spend, this flat fee on this solution and implement it. Why wouldn't I want to do that? And in most cases, I advocate against it because it's nice to have a low upfront fee, but then you own it. And there are costs associated with doing that. There's the implementation of getting that set up the way that you need it. There's the maintenance costs of running it yourself. It's built into your Magento. So you got to make sure that everything works really, really well. I mean, I think that there is some benefit to a API driven solution like us and some of the other SaaS solutions where we kind of sit next to Magento and connect via API. It's more flexible, but it's more stable too. It's not built into the architecture of Magento like a lot of those off the shelf extensions are. Right. So when you look at SaaS solutions in the space, particularly in the space that we're involved in, it's really just us and Order Groove. I know that they're a competitor, but I have nothing bad to say about their product. I think that it's a reliable product. They work with world-class clients. I think that the big difference there, what sets us apart is that we are kind of smaller and scrappier. And so we're able to be a bit more agile and probably able to take on like a bit more customization than they might be interested in. So we really like to dig in on, use cases that other folks might be like, and I think that, that's kind of like the key differentiator there. My personal cell phone number is in my email signature, for crying out loud. So, and I do talk to clients when they're onboarding. They're like, hey, I need to know if it can do X, or, I got this and we're trying to say, it's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, specifically about the Magento platform, I mean, it's particularly useful to speak to someone in sales with a platform like Subscribe Pro who actually really understands the Magento platform.
Yeah, yeah.
That's in my conversations with you, that certainly seems to be the case. And with Magento, so just to kind of back up and talk a little bit more about that connection, if it's an API connection or it's an extension that enables your SaaS platform, from a Magento admin point of view, I'm going into the admin tools and I'm seeing an area where I can adjust some configurations within the Subscribe Pro functionality, or do I go out to a separate portal and I do that separately, or how does that typically work?
So there is a bit of a presentation there in the Magento admin that allows you to select whether a product should be available on subscription or not. That's like if you're adding a new product and you just want to click, yes, this is available on subscription, it would transmit that information to Subscribe Pro. But for the most part, you'd be using Subscribe Pro's merchant app to manage, you know, subscription details, like if there's any kind of a subscription discount, what the order frequency should be for a particular product. You know, manage customers, you'd be able to like look at customer information within the Subscribe Pro platform. So there is some functionality in the Magento admin, but most of those tasks would happen within the Subscribe Pro admin.
And is it true that there's enough openness within the API that, like, if you did have an agency that was skilled in building out those API connections, you could actually bring in some of that Subscribe Pro data into the Magento admin on a customized?
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that would be possible. I don't think that we've got anybody doing it, but I mean, again, that's kind of the cool thing about working with Subscribe Pro, you know, a scrappy, you know, kind of agency that's interested in customization and can be really flexible. Like any question that comes up of like, can Subscribe Pro do X? The answer to that question is yeah, right? It's like, you know, that's determined by like, you know,
Time and money.
the appetite for, you know, making something, but like, yeah, we can technically make it do literally anything that you want. I mean, like the sky's the limit in terms of, but what we've settled on is kind of a nice balance between like, we're going to give you pretty much everything that you need out of the box, like Subscribe Pro with like, you know, moderate level of effort for implementation with an SI that is familiar with our solution, like an Iron Plane. You know, would be able to implement that relatively quickly. We would help with testing, everything would get set up, it'd be good to go. That works for most clients that want to use Subscribe Pro. We didn't make everything like fully perfect and ready to go because then it wouldn't apply to as many people. But by building it to like 90 to 95% of the way there and then customizing it the rest of the way, it's the difference between buying a suit off the rack or like buying a suit that's the jacket's your size, but you're going to maybe have like the waist taken in a little bit to kind of like get it to be just right for you. And that's kind of our design philosophy on the way that we built the Subscribe Pro product is like, it needs to be like really good for a majority of people. And then just like a couple of tweaks to make it right for their use case on Magento. And we feel like we've kind of arrived at like the right balance for that, you know?
Okay. I think most folks listening to this might be in the B2C category, but we also work with several B2B clients. Have you come across B2B clients who are using your tool for some type of kind of reorder process for their existing clients?
We have, although transparently, it is not as common.
Okay.
I think a lot of times the challenge there is that with B2B orders, they're subject to change. In a lot of like, I know exactly how much coffee I drink for the most part. So I know how often I need more coffee, or like, I know how often I need more food for my dog. In a B2B instance, I feel like a lot of times those orders and invoices can kind of vary, you know, based on the needs of the business. So it's a bit harder to predict, like we're always going to need X amount of this product. The ones that we do see that are doing that are, a lot of times it'll be like incidental business. So what I mean by that is like, we worked for a long time with a coffee roaster where most of their business was B2C. You could go to their website, order your favorite coffee, give me 2 bags a month. Cool, please and thank you. But they also had some wholesale customers that were coffee shops that would buy like 10, 15, 20 pounds every week or two. and they just roughly knew how many, customers they had walking in off the street. And so it was kind of a smaller scale B2B.
Yeah.
We do work now with some B2B clients that do access subscriptions. So like just recurring billing of like access to an online technology, CAD software or engineering solutions or accounting, things like that. So in those cases, it's a bit easier because it's just an access subscription. Sure. It's not it's not a product that's subject to change.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, we technically could be made to work for B2B. We haven't seen a ton of B2B clients, but we do have them, and we've had them in the past as well. So
yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more just to kind of generate ideas and think through like what are the scenarios that might work for B2B, because I agree it certainly doesn't strike me as a very common scenario given what you were describing, the variation in the order needs, but just wanted to put it out there. Okay, so we've talked a fair bit about kind of the integration with Magento. If we could touch a little bit more on kind of how the processing of the orders goes. So as a user of a Magento store, I'm going to this very familiar store who just implemented Subscribe Pro to build out their subscriptions for, let's say, shampoo. Okay. So I go to that website, it's familiar to me. What am I as a user going to see that's a little bit different once Subscribe Pro has been implemented? I'm on the product detail page where I'm looking at my favorite shampoo.
Yeah, so ideally, almost nothing should change. The only thing that you would see that would be different is that there would be a radio button for subscribe. A customer should never see Subscribe Pro's name or logo. They should never be redirected away from the merchant site. They should never know that we exist. Like, our entire goal is to operate entirely behind the scenes so that every interaction happens only with the merchant, and that we, are sort of the man behind the curtain, so to speak. The end user is going to come to the product details page, and there's going to be a subscription widget there that is powered by Subscribe Pro, but it'll be themed by the SI to kind of match the overall look and feel of the product details page. Yeah. They'll have the option for a one-time order if they just wanted to order it once, or there'll be a radio button for subscription. And then if they choose that, they'll have whatever the order frequencies should be for that given product. And that can be configured down to the product or category level, because obviously some things you might order more frequently, some things you might only order every 3 to 6 months or even up to a year, right? So based on, what product you're looking at, you would have those product frequencies available. You would select the frequency that you want, and then you'd add it to the cart. Now, we also show the widget in the cart too. So if you had selected a one-time order and you change your mind, you don't have to remove it and re-add it. You can just switch to subscription on your way to the checkout. We also support a blended cart. So you could have, a subscription order and a non-subscription order together in the cart. Or you could even have multiple subscription items in the cart with different delivery frequencies.
Okay.
And you'd still be able to check out just a single. Yeah, you should never ever. I mean, geez, it's 2022, and I know most people have accounted for this. But if you're making customers check out in different checkouts because they have subscriptions and non-subscriptions or different frequencies, you absolutely need to fix that tomorrow.
Give Rob a call if you're dealing with that.
Right. You should. If I'm a customer and I come to your site, I want one cart. Regardless of if I'm if I've got 2 different subscriptions or a subscription item and a non-subscription item, it needs to be one cart. And it is one cart because the checkout process is the Magento or whatever platform checkout. You're using that cart as the customer. So you get the same checkout experience that you would if you were, coming to the site to place a one-time order. You get a confirmation email from how you normally would within Magento. The only difference is that if there's a subscription item in the cart, Subscribe Pro's extension is going to capture that information and store it in our platform so that we can generate the subsequent orders. So, if I go right now and I check out with a bottle of vitamins and it's, 30 tablets in a bottle and I want to subscribe to them every month, I'm going to get my initial order now. It'll go through the site like any other Magento order. And then 30 days from now, the Subscribe Pro platform is going to say, this is an order for Rob. His customer ID is 12345. It's for SKU ABCD. This is the token and the address. It's going to hit the Magento cart API, build out a cart, and push that through Magento. So effectively, it's automating the reorder process on behalf of the customer, which means that it gets an order number in the ecom platform. It shows in the customer's order history. So if I'm logged in and I go to the My Account page and I look at order history, I'll see not only the orders that I myself placed, I'll also see all of the subscription orders, and you can flag those as being like, hey, this was a subscription. So you can tell the difference between, what you, the customer, placed and what was ordered for you as a subscription.
Great. So that sounds pretty seamless, both from the purchasing point of view and also as a customer with an account point of view, logging in, seeing their past orders. Is there also an area where, and I know we're digging into the details here, but I'm just curious, as a user, a visitor, a purchaser of a subscription, I want to manage my subscription. I want to go in, I want to pause my subscription so that instead of every 30 days, it's going to skip the next delivery and then resume. Is that something that I do within Magento, or do I go to a different portal?
Yeah, you would still do that within the My Account page. So again, an end user should never be directed away from the Magento site. Subscribe Pro adds a My Subscriptions section to the accounts page within Magento. So you're still on the Magento site. You still see everything like matches the theme of the site, and that gives the subscriber the ability to, hey, I'm going to be on vacation and I want to push my next order off by a week or two, or, I want to skip my next order, or I want to pause for now, or I need to, update my address because I just moved, or change the card that I'm using to pay for this. So all of that is available in the My Accounts page on the merchant's site to the subscriber.
And the URLs all stay the same and they're all familiar, and nobody gets freaked out by like being pushed to a different URL for a different company that they've never heard of. So that's
correct.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good approach. I mean, I know that there are a lot of other platforms that do it differently, and it's not to say that one is better or worse. It's just to say, like, if you're on the Magento platform and you want to maintain that unified look and feel and experience, then this is a really great scenario for that, where you've got Subscribe Pro integrated. So what's next for Subscribe Pro? And I'll just throw one idea out there. There's this whole idea of headless, or I actually don't like that term. I prefer the composable commerce idea, which I think is more appropriate. But is that an area of interest for Subscribe Pro? Are you already there? And what does the future look like for you guys?
I mean, we technically could work in that type of setting currently. We don't have any customers doing that, but we could. I think, currently the focus is on, we're constantly on a path of product improvement. We're trying to add new features and make things run a bit more smoothly. So that's been a big focus this year. Adding some things that clients specifically have requested. And then we're also kind of a bit further out on the horizon, looking at where we want to go in terms of expanding our ability to work on other e-com platforms as well. We're still kind of in discovery there. We're chatting with some folks about it. I can't give too much away, but that's also in the cards currently. So, yeah.
Well, we'll be in touch, and we'll keep tabs on that and see how it's going. Any advice you have for folks who are considering looking into subscriptions? Where can they learn about subscriptions generally and Subscribe Pro specifically?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm of the opinion that the best way to do that is to speak with people that are doing it, and doing it in a way that you like. You know what I mean? Like, you could Google it and read like half a dozen different articles, but like, go to a website that you think looks really good, or that you're a subscriber of even, and like, look at how they're doing their subscription program, and kind of put together a list of like needs and wants for your business. Reach out to them and see like, hey, who do you work with? Like, how did you do? Like, I love your user experience. Like, I am a subscriber, but I run my own business, or I'm an e-com director at somewhere, and ask them how they did it, and then chat with folks who are experts at it. I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit, but we've been doing this for a long time, and I genuinely love having like consultative conversations with people about it. I don't care for like, pushy sales. I'm more interested in like meeting people and being like, tell me about what you want to do, and like, I'll tell you about the best way to do it. Hopefully it's my solution, but if it's not, like, that's fine too. You know, yeah. And if you're interested in Subscribe Pro, I mean, you can check out our website, subscribepro.com. I always love meeting new people and having conversations about it. But I do think that for most businesses, if they have a clear idea of what they're looking to get, and they're not just like, oh, we should set up subscriptions, right? You should have some idea of like what your goal with subscriptions is. And it should be a reasonable one. It should be based on your current business and what you know about your current customers. But like, I think for most businesses, even ones that don't necessarily have like a subscribable, like a classically subscribable product, there are creative ways that you can use it that will still drive your revenue. And that should be like the overall goal is like lift revenue and provide customers with a better experience. And you can do both of those things together with subscriptions. So
yeah, great. And we'll include some links to like LinkedIn and your website and all that in the notes below. Just kind of one last question, if you can, is there a kind of ballpark pricing structure, or is that just something that people can look at on your website, or is it like so custom that it has to be done based on conversations and kind of a customized pricing build?
I mean, I would lean more towards the second, because it does kind of depend on like, are you, a mom and pop store who's kind of just getting this off the ground, or are you, a large international client that already has an existing subscriber base? It kind of really runs the gamut. But suffice to say that like starts way more affordably than most people would think. If you're a small mom and pop kind of business, I mean, you could run subscriptions for, a few thousand a year, right? But if you're a larger business, you have a ton of subscribers already, then you're going to be looking at a number that's quite a bit higher than that. Okay. So it really is kind of based on need. But yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. Okay, great. Well, hopefully this is adding value to the many merchants that are out there, and especially the ones looking to learn more about subscription software. And hopefully they'll reach out to you directly and get a demo. So, yeah, that'd be great. Rob, thank you very much for joining us on Shaping E-commerce, and we will look forward to speaking in the future.
Tim, it's great to chat with you as always. Thanks so much.
All right, take care.
For more insights on how to improve your e-commerce website and for a free consultation, visit ironplane.com. Follow us on social media and like and subscribe below.